Hey everyone, and welcome to Three Black Women and Their White Coach,
a podcast where we have a conversation around navigating race in the coaching industry.
And we're your hosts.
I'm Catrice Stetson, your mixed race internet bestie and serial entrepreneur who's built multiple businesses from the ground up.
And I'm Brianna Lachelle, your biracial nonprofit coach whose focus is on helping support nonprofit leaders and founders create impact-driven organizations that radically change their communities for the better.
Here at Three Black Women and Their White Coach, we dive into hard conversations centered around racial inequity within the coaching space with softness and grace.
Our hearts are to open up these conversations and create a safe space for people to be seen, learn, and create a better, more inclusive environment for all.
So pull up a chair, your favorite snack, and a bevy while you yap with your new biz besties as we work to make the coaching industry a place where we all feel welcome and respected. In this episode, we're unpacking the invisible, unpaid, and unspoken work Black women are often expected to do in the coaching space. Emotional labor. From comforting others during hard conversations to translating racial dynamics to keeping the peace in the name of professionalism, we name what it costs us to constantly show up as the strong one. This episode is a love letter and a boundary check.
Before we begin, we want to offer a gentle but firm reminder. This episode is about emotional labor, specifically the invisible, unpaid, and unspoken weight that Black women often carry in coaching and community spaces. We are not here to vilify anyone, and we are definitely not here to replay trauma for entertainment. We're here to name the patterns that keep showing up, the pressures we've silently carried, and the boundaries we're learning to hold. If you're a white coach or colleague and this episode challenges you, we invite you to stay. If you hear something that makes you uncomfortable, sit with it. That's where the growth lives. This conversation is being held with care, nuance, and love, not to alienate, but to awaken. And if you're a Black woman who's been tired of holding space for everyone else, this one is specifically for you.
All right, so let's define emotional labor. This term was originally coined by sociologist Arlie Hochschild in 1983. It's the effort it takes to manage feelings, expressions, and responses in ways that benefit others, often at your own expense. And for Black women in coaching, it can look like soothing white fragility during race-related combos, avoiding full expression to seem professional. A topic we've talked about. We'll continue beating the dead horse for this one. Explaining identity dynamics to peers and leaders, managing microaggressions silently to keep the vibe, and being the strong one even while hurting. It's not just what we do, it's what we hold, and we're tired of holding it alone. I don't know about you, Brianna, but I definitely know that it can get so heavy and honestly so exhausting.
Yeah.
When we're having to hold and do this emotional labor for others, especially in spaces that are predominantly white.
Yeah. Or even just like holding spaces that we shouldn't have to. I'm not sure if you've experienced this, but being in group settings where you're not the leader or the coach and still having because you're the only Black woman, it is then deemed your responsibility to hold the weight of certain topics, certain conversations, and to have to basically keep all the things together and be the Black advocate for the group or the Black spokesperson for the group with no recognition. And it's almost this unspoken expectation that can really weigh on the soul when you're supposed to be in the room to get fed, but you're the one that's actually feeding everyone.
Yeah, and I think it's also this when we're showing up to spaces and we are selected to be the voice for all Black women. It becomes emotional game of how do I phrase this in such a way, what is most politically correct for me to say that someone's not going to take what I say and run with it as this is the standard for everyone.
Right.
I think that's also so hard because so I'm 25 and I often adjacent to being asked, oh, as a woman of color, like, what are your thoughts? Like, what do you think, like, the Black community, like, X, Y, and Z thinks?
Mm-hmm.
I also get asked, oh, you're Gen Z. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, I'm like, girly pops, I love you. I totally see the intention, but I'm one person.
Right.
And my experience, especially being mixed when it comes to race, I cannot speak for all Black women.
Right. Yeah.
I am not
We're all
fully
Black
Black.
people. Right. Yeah. Yeah. And it's just like a really unfair ask for to like because then you stop getting to show up as yourself, right? Because now you're the spokesperson. And so like you're saying, you have to be so conscious of like what you say, how you phrase something that you can really lose like your own thoughts and perspective because you're trying so hard to filter the voice of thousands of people in your one little comment, you know? And like
Yeah.
and the fact that that is going to be some people's like standard and like expectation for the entire Black community is based on what you said, which like just leads to like a lot of like pressure and like hypervigilance, you know?
Yeah, I also think that this educational piece that we have to do for others, especially when we're in coaching settings as a client, and
Mm-hmm.
then we get asked these questions, it puts us in this place. And I don't know if you've experienced this where you make your statement, but then there's follow-up questions, not just from the coach, but other people in the room. And
Mm-hmm.
it becomes this like, I paid to be here to learn, not to be the one to teach. I'm not getting paid.
Right.
And it's not like
Exactly.
this, like, it's not like, oh, anytime someone asks me this question, I need, here's my Venmo. But it's like, we're showing up to these spaces and we're showing up in these spaces because we trust your expertise and we trust, that we came here for a purpose to learn something, to walk away with something. We trust you
Mm-hmm.
to be someone who's going to give us the information that we need, that we're looking for. When you spin it and then back on us, where we then have to do the education, and then we're fielding questions and doing all this, like, it's I'm like, oh, I paid like $97 to be on this 90-minute hot seat coaching call, and now
I'm the
I
coach.
I'm the coach.
Yeah.
Like, where's my bag? Because we've now
Yeah.
spent 30 minutes with me being the center of attention. And it's not because, oh, I was in the hot seat for coaching. It was because I had to, educate and then do follow up.
Yeah, yeah. I think like that's like such a beautiful example of what it could look like for like true allyship could look like if you notice as a coach that someone has a lot of value or is more versed in a subject that you're not and they're in your room and you're not in their room as far as like they've paid you, not you haven't paid them, like giving them like clocking it and like recognizing like, ooh, maybe this is something I can talk to this person about, maybe having like a mini session for my peeps because obviously they have like information that I want and other people want, but I'm not going to like disrespect them by like them paying to be in a room and then doing all the work without like me actually showing up and providing the thing that I told them that I would provide. And like that's not everybody's not going to feel comfortable with that, you know, because like we said, we're not one person is not the spokesperson for race and the racial experience for any one group of people, but if we are not familiar with a lot of Black creators or if we don't have access to a lot of women of color, then one, that should be like a red flag for us, like we should be wondering why. And then two, if we are focused on learning more and getting more information, then we should pay them for their time just like they're paying us for our time. And I think that that's a really considerate way to kind of navigate those types of situations. you know?
Yeah, I think also the acknowledgement, being able to slide in after a call and be like, "Hey, I realized that you actually, you know, were fielding a lot of questions and maybe you don't even have to go about being like, "Oh, maybe you didn't get a lot out of this," but being like, "Hey, I just want to acknowledge and like share my appreciation for you
Yeah.
speaking." Because that
Yeah.
also is like truly we have the ability to say no.
Yeah.
But also knowing that it does put us in this really awkward situation. Like think about being in school, and I don't know about you, Brianna, but growing up, I was the one who would count like how many people and tell me and like figure out which paragraph I was going to be reading.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
that stuff, like public speaking, like I know I show up online really well. I get compliments on it all the time. That's something when I go to networking events, they're like, "Oh my gosh, your presence online is fabulous." I don't like public speaking in like a way that it just makes me anxious. It brings this
Mhm.
dysregulation to my nervous system that I don't like.
Right.
Not that I can't do it, not that I can't, put on a mask and be like, "Yeah, I can do this and I can show up." But it's not something that comes natural to me. It takes a lot of practice, it takes a lot of warm up. And
Yeah.
so it also is hard for me to say no because I
Yeah.
also am very aware of how many people are in the room, how many people are watching me, waiting for me to say something. And it's that level of like, what is professional? And
Mm.
is it like, how do I go about saying this in a professional way? Or I don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. Even though it's been deemed a safe space, like safe space sometimes is this code word for like this code phrase for don't make others feel uncomfortable. And so it can sometimes be so hard to honor boundaries and honor ourselves when we're put in these tough positions because we don't want to be looked down upon.
Yeah. Yeah. 1,000%. And it can just be like a hard thing to work through because like you said, like, yeah, we could say no, like we could make that choice, but then that also shifts the perception of people in the example you're using, the other people in the room. So now they have this idea of like who you are and like, oh, Catrice is like that angry black girl who won't answer questions about race because she's too good or she thinks she's too important or, things like that, and it spins this narrative. And I mean, I'm sure a lot of you who are listening knows that your reputation matters a lot in the online space in life, but a lot of coaching is based on referrals and like what people think of you and like the testimonials and things and stuff that you have. So a comment like that can like really damage both our business and then just like our personal well-being. So it is hard to try to navigate what that should even look like.
Yeah, like, and I think that's like the tough thing is we don't, there is no right way, but
Mhm.
that also, it's not, I feel like always it becomes like this lose lose situation. Like, I'm either going to say no
Mhm.
and risk it all type of deal, or I'm going to spend this time now doing education and having to explain race or speak for X, Y, and Z for the millions of other like black women in the
Yeah.
world, where it's like this lose lose. And then also when you say no, your tone starts getting
Mhm.
like you have to be so precise in the tone of voice and that stuff so you don't get tone police, so you don't get told like that could have been nicer, or like it's so many things. And I don't think that it's, I guess, talked about enough or made known that like there's such this internal struggle and battle that happens
Yeah.
when we're put in a situation like that.
Yeah, definitely. And then there's also like the repercussions, like if we do say no, or if we say something that might be considered like a little spicy, and like the response that we might get. Um, and like before I make this statement, I want to preface that like people respond to things differently. And if you're a person that like cries during conflict or like has angry tears or like gets upset or something genuinely hurts your feelings enough to cry, like that is one thing, right? But there's also like, look at any Karen video on the internet. Like, there's also this aspect of white women can sometimes weaponize like tears or guilt or things like that to make black women into the bad person or black people into the bad guy. That also plays a role in perceptions, right? So like a black woman can very sternly and professionally like decline something, and then there might be like a feeling of shame or embarrassment, and then to like combat that there's like this weaponization that can happen, which is also so harmful and just like reinforces this idea that black women's job is to show up and make everyone else comfortable even at the expense of themselves, and when they don't there will be a punishment. And that's just like hard, right? Because then you have to give up almost, I mean, I hate the strong black woman trope. Hate it because I think it really takes away the humanity of black women in a lot of ways, you know, because of that perception that like, well, black women are just tough and they're strong and they can take care of anything and everything. It takes away black women's ability to show up vulnerably, to be soft, and to be like sad or disappointed or hurt by something, because there's the expectation that their job is to be strong and take care of everyone, whether it's in their homes, in their communities, or in the coaching space, whether they're coach or client. And so when we continue that expectation and show them in spaces that should be safe for them that it's actually not, we further harm them. And it's not even, and it, what kills me is that we continually pay for it, because that's like the price that sometimes we have to pay in order to get the information and knowledge we need to move forward. But if we're going to be creating inclusive, like an inclusive coaching industry and inclusive programs, we need to start being more conscious of how we're treating people and what our subconscious ideas and thoughts and biases might be, and how that's showing up in the way that we're approaching them and the things that we're either explicitly asking them to do or like unexplicitly asking them to do, you know?
Yeah. Like there's such an extra cost to it. It's like, yes, we are paying to be in these spaces, and it's so hard because it's like we are paying to be in these spaces. But
Yeah.
then there's this extra cost of the emotional labor. And then honestly, I mean, I know Brianna, you're in therapy, I'm in therapy. Then there's the therapy bill that comes after, like because
Amen.
we get sat in these positions and there's such a disconnection from self when we
Mm-hmm.
can't feel and express ourselves. And I also hate this angry black woman trope because it doesn't allow us to set boundaries.
Right.
Like
Right.
we are not able to because of how we will like be perceived, and reputation is so key in the online space, building an online business.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, even without being in the online space, like not working in it, our world is just in society is so online, and things get spread so fast and things get pulled out of context so easily
Yeah.
that there's just we are hyper vigilant, and then it leads to
Mm-hmm.
this burnout. I can't tell you how like my social battery runs out way faster now as an entrepreneur. And it's not like I'm going out more or stuff like I've traded going out with my friends to the lake to going to networking happy hours, those types of things. It's not like I'm doing everything.
Yeah.
Um but like I come home and or I get off of calls after a long day of calls from, especially as someone who offers like coaching type services and then also loves to be in programs. I am a lifelong learner. I am someone who I definitely see myself going back to school and getting a master's degree and working my way up to a doctorate. And like, there's so many things that I just want to learn about in the world.
Yeah.
So like, I'm always sitting on both sides of, of the coin, of the table even. And it's like, I burn out so fast. I will just come home and or get off calls and exit my office because I now get to have that privilege of having a space dedicated for work. And I'll just nap, and I'll nap
Yeah.
hard and for
Yeah.
a long time because I'm just so burnt out and I'm so drained.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's just these extra costs that I think that sometimes as coaches, consultants, strategists, whatever, because I know that now we are also in this age of trying to redefine what mentorship looks like, and
Mhm.
what it's titled and that stuff is it's considering, what are people having, what are people maybe paying in addition to that like 500 plus dollars a month? Like when you're putting them in that position where they have to speak for the masses and they can't set boundaries, especially if you've kind of gave them a slap on the wrist already. And you
Yeah.
probably didn't intend for it to be this like, I'm going to say earth shattering, but because sometimes it feels like that because I feel so shook in my core when someone corrects and tone polices. But like there is such a cost that comes from the emotional labor that isn't taken into consideration, which is why we continue to be put in these positions.
Yeah, 1,000%. And like Katrice is saying, like, I highly doubt that the women and coaches, specifically white coaches listening right now, that is like anyone's intention, right? I don't think that anybody's trying to make Black women feel this way, but now that you're aware that that can be something that's happening, it is our responsibility to like figure out, okay, what are we going to do about it, right? So I think now would be a really good time to like start talking about boundaries, and I'll actually
Mhm.
start with like what white coaches and peers can be doing to set boundaries in regards to like not pushing emotional labor on Black women. And so like one of the first things that we can do is don't center your guilt in conversation about harm. So if a Black woman is brave enough to come up to you and be like, hey, so this thing happened today, it hurt me, like, don't make it about you. That's part of being accountable and allyship, like we talked about in earlier episodes. Like, part of being a true ally and being a true support for our clients is showing up and not centering our own feelings and guilt when somebody's telling us that something's harmed them. Another thing is, like we've been saying this whole episode, pay Black women who educate you. So if you are getting free education or free work from Black women, even if they don't ask you to pay them, offering sets a huge tone, and it shows them, you honor their sacrifice that they're making, and that you see them beyond like just their use for you and whatever coaching relationship that you have. um I think also it's important to hold space without demanding labor from them. So, like, if you really need a Black woman to come and educate, then pay them. But if you can actually go get that education somewhere else, like, and they're paying you to hold space for them, actually hold that space and don't ask for anything in return. And be so conscious of if you're causing her to do extra work. And then kind of be willing to sit in discomfort. That's where this work really begins. And so if you're listening to this and it's like you feel it like in your throat and in your gut and in your shoulders and you're like, oh, like I want to just lovingly tell you like this is good because you are becoming aware of how your actions might be affecting other people, and you don't like that you've been maybe a harm to someone. And so because you don't like it, you have the ability to change it. And that just comes with like taking accountability and like seeing what you've been doing and then choosing a new path and being willing to get it wrong and ask questions and then take the feedback that you receive and know that you're like not going to get it right off the bat, and just being okay with having to continue to learn how to do this thing because everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect. And so you showing up and doing the work is what someone's asking for. They're not asking for you to be perfect.
Yeah. And for our Black women who are listening, some ways to set boundaries and kind of really, add to how can we make a sustainable, safe space for all of us collectively is one, remembering that you don't have to perform strength. If you're not feeling strong, you don't gotta perform.
Yeah.
Like performing out the door. We're showing up as ourselves and feeling all the feelings. And if you're not feeling strong today and you don't want to stand up, that's okay. No is also a full sentence.
Yeah.
And I think that, pairing those two together, like no is also strong, but also soft and making sure that you're taking care and honoring yourself.
Yeah.
And then you're not required to educate everyone around you. And I think sometimes we've been conditioned to feel like we need to and that we need to say yes. It's not our job. Especially if we are in a space where we're paying to be educated and to learn and get strategy and support, you don't have to educate. It
Yeah.
is not our job to educate everyone. And then build communities that hold you, not just what you offer. So, really, I think and this is hard to do because sometimes it does require a level of isolating, but I think that also now that if you are listening to this podcast, you now know that there is a space in a community that Brianna and I have for you, and we are here for you. But like, if you are not welcome, take stock of the spaces that you're in and how they are treating you. And are you always the one who has to have all the answers and do the educating?
Yeah.
And also take that time to one, reflect and look at, okay, how can I honor myself more? Because you're probably feeling a little dysregulated. But then also, how can I find communities and how can I build them? How can we do that together so then there are safer spaces that hold everyone to the same standard, and everyone is getting paid at the table, everyone is contributing, like it's true give and take.
Yeah.
But yeah, we are not, like, I think the big thing is that we are not the peacekeeper. We do not have to be the peacekeeper. As an eldest daughter, Brianna is also an eldest daughter. Sometimes we have, like, we are built, conditioned for that, but reminding ourselves, like, we are not the peacekeeper. We are whole people and we are allowed to rest. We are allowed to rage. Like, if you are feeling those feelings, you are allowed to express them. And we are also allowed to reclaim. Like, we are allowed to take back our boundaries and take back ourselves in our space. But Brianna, I think they're ready for a heart check.
Yeah, I think it's really important for us to remember that like emotional labor isn't love. It isn't loyalty. It's labor. And it deserves to be acknowledged. It deserves to be compensated. And it deserves to have really clear boundaries that protect all the people involved. And so, whether that's you having to set boundaries for yourself, or if you're a white coach recognizing, ooh, I haven't put good boundaries in place for my programs and my clients' protection, like that's something that we should start thinking about. So today, this first heart check is for Black women specifically, and it might sting a little, but I want to like lovingly, I'm gonna hold your hand when I say this, and I want you to think about, where have you been holding emotional space without that person's consent, and what would it look like to put that weight down? Because also we have to take responsibility as Black women too, to take some of our power back and recognize that sometimes we show up and do things that nobody asked us for, nobody's paying us for, and that we don't have to do. So sometimes, as much as we might hate it or as much as it's not in our personality, like me and Catrice have to practice this so much because we are eldest daughters, we are the fixers, we are the gals, you know. Sometimes we have to check ourselves and be like, oh, they didn't ask me to hold that emotional space for them. I'm not getting paid to hold that emotional space for them. I'm gonna put that back down with love and patience, you know, but like we have to check ourselves and be more accountable, you know? And then for our white coaches and listeners, I think it's really important to ask yourself, like, where are your Black counterparts showing up in a way that you aren't? And what would it mean to create a space for your Black counterparts to just show up and be without feeling like they have to do anything extra? And what would it look like for us to set some really clear boundaries to create safety for all parties involved? And so I think these are things that we can really look at that will help make our spaces, our programs, the industry itself, a safer, more inclusive atmosphere for everybody.
Yeah, and that's a wrap. We're 3 Black women and their white coach, and this conversation's just getting started.
Friends, thanks so much for joining us today.
We've loved getting to spend this time here with you, but don't let the conversation stop here. Drop us a message or connect with us on social media. All the details can be found in the show notes.
Along with some great resources to help you on this journey of helping make the coaching industry more inclusive. Until next time, we're 3 Black women
and their white coach,
doing the work, holding the space, and building something better.